Welcome back to episode 4 of Leave My Saturdays Alone here on the Minnesota Sports Media YouTube channel. I'm your host, Garrett Burroughs. Joining me this week, who was supposed to be here last week. I had to fly solo last week. We're joined by Chickster. How are we doing?
We're good. Hey, this is a fucking recap show for anyone that, like Trey Daubert that misunderstood. We fucking covered that shit. We said that shit. Just fucking said, hey, it's a recap show. Okay? So we're going to stay with me, recap. I keep leaning over here because my mic's over here. We're going to recap the fucking shows, Trey. Like, maybe, just listen a little bit harder next time. I know you just like to hear what you want to hear, but no, we're gonna recap the fucking like games that's going on. That's the point of the show, is to recap. It's not even my show, and I have to explain that shit. But obviously, some of our viewers, Trey Daubert, is not understanding the whole point of that. So I'm glad he put out a whole post about that, knowing that he can't know how to listen. That's what I heard about that. So just wanted to make that clear. I'm great, actually. I'm fantastic.
This does make me laugh because I opened the show last week with my thoughts on the situation as well. So now I just had
to put my, I didn't, there's one thing about Chickster. He's going to say his opinion on things. And so so I was going to open with that, even though like I didn't get to do it last week. I got to do it this week. So there you go.
Listen, we appreciate every single Chickster rant that we'll ever get. So this is going to be kind of a different episode. I know that in weeks past, I've gone over some of the games, gone in depth, the box score, things like that. I more want to pick Chickster's brain on a couple of things in terms of college football through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year so far. We're gonna talk about Georgia and Alabama as well, because that was the game of the year. So I feel like
I don't like when you don't prepare me for this. You're just like, hey, we're gonna do the show. I'm like, all right, cool. And then he's like, so what I'm actually gonna do is test Chickster on everything at the, like it's like a pop quiz. And I was just like, all right.
Yep. So couple of quick hitters really quick. I'm sure that you're familiar with the situation that's going on at UNLV with Matt Sluka. For those who are watching and are not familiar, Matt Sluka is using his red shirt to enter the transfer portal for this upcoming offseason. And he's claiming that he was owed about $100,000. He was promised $100,000 by UNLV to come in and be the quarterback of their program. And there's differing reports, but it sounds like he only received about $8,000 or so, maybe a little bit more of that money. My rant, I guess I don't really call it a rant, but my thoughts last week were I understand both sides of it. Because on one hand, Sluka was promised this money. If I was me, I want my money, right?
I'm saying give him my money.
But on the school side, he's kind of a bum. It's like, I know you made the promise, but like, if I promise somebody something and they're under delivering, I more side with Sluka than I do the university in the situation. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on it.
I am on Sluka's side on this because it's just being a man of your word. Like even though it just says a lot about you and your program. Like UNLV, like if you say, hey, and like UNLV just never denied that they didn't, promise Sluka 100,000. You just said, hey, I'm not going to pay that. I'm a man of my word. Jared Prosser's like son, I said, hey, I think the Suns are going to beat the Bucks or some shit like that. And the Bucks ended up beating the Suns, and I told him I would buy him a jersey, and I stuck to my promise. It took me months later, but I stuck to like that. It just says what you like. It says a lot about you and your program if you cannot honor your promises that you made. Like whoever made that promise needs to be fired. If that wasn't the head coach, if it was someone on the recruiting staff, like they need to be fired. Like you can't. That's a bad look. And I would, if I was UNLV, I would throw that guy under the bus. But it just says something about your program. Now he under-delivered. That's great. But at the time of the promise, you said 100,000. You need to pay him 100,000. Like that. Like that's just that's bitch made shit. Now if he's not worth the 100,000. Yeah, that's a mistake. People make mistakes all the time. Like if you're a draft in the NFL draft, that you're gonna miss. There's gonna be a lot of misses. You know, if you're the Raiders, there's more misses than makes. I promise you. Okay. If you're a college program, you're gonna have bad recruiting. Like it's gonna happen. But don't say you're gonna pay a dude 100,000 and not pay him. On Sluka's side though, he should have got that, lawyered or whatever. I think he did, but I think the agent kind of fucked up there too by not ensuring that he gets his money. I want my money up front. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so if I under deliver, I already got paid. But it's just shitty. So I wouldn't be surprised if recruiting wise that hurts UNLV just because it's you don't make no fucking promise you're gonna keep. And if I was a recruit and they were recruiting me, it's like, okay, so are you gonna pay me my money, or not that I plan on it, but if I under deliver, are you just not gonna pay me my money? Just so we're clear, this will impact my decision because the whole NIL thing, if I'm getting paid, I'm gonna get paid. Everyone used to pay under the table, before the NIL, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and I get both sides of it. It's hard not to feel for Sluka in the situation because $100,000 to premier athletes may not be a lot of money, but to a college student, especially in this new world of NIL,
to me,
yeah, to the average Joes like you and I, $100,000 is that's turning shit around for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody eating. We going to Sizzler.
Yeah. So I can understand it. Couple more things really quick. I talked about it last week. Brent Venables decided to bench Jackson Arnold going into the game against Auburn. Just really quickly, what were your thoughts on that benching?
They both suck. They both suck. So what it's just hey, it's a catch-22. They both fucking suck. That goes back to the recruiting, but you should be in the market for a quarterback. If you're benching both, my thing is DJU, he transferred, wasn't good at all. Injury, whatever you could say, it's an injury. He wasn't good. He hasn't been good for years. He got benched, and their backup's not that much better. I mean, even if you bench Arnold, and Arnold sucks too, and then what do you do from there? Go to the third string guy? You're kind of fucked either way. So, I as a super premier middle school coach myself, when I bench a guy, sometimes I'm just trying to get more out of him, and maybe that happens. Maybe you're trying to get more out of that guy, especially at the college level. You can see that happening more often. But we'll see where it goes from there. I think they're fucked either way. They're both kind of bunts. It's hey, we're a shitty team. We're gonna bench you to bring another shitty guy on, and hopefully he does better. And if he does worse, well, maybe we'll go back to you.
Well, that was the confusing thing that I talked about, was that they decided to bench Jackson Arnold before going on the road to Auburn for an SEC matchup, and they were starting a true freshman.
Yeah.
On the road, and it made zero sense.
However, at Auburn,
which I know that Auburn's program right now kind of in shambles, right? They're not the team that they once were, but Auburn's still a formidable place to play. However, true freshman Michael Hawkins fucking showed out against Auburn. Picked up a win on the road, 27-21. 66% completion percentage, 161 yards through the air, 69 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. That's pretty solid for a true freshman for his first career start on the road. So in hindsight, it seems like they might have made the correct decision, but at the time it kind of felt like Venables was just kind of covering his ass because yes, Brent Venables is not a good head coach. He was one of the nation's best coordinators when he was at Clemson. I don't think anybody can deny that. However, there's just some coaches who are not meant to be head coaches.
I know that as well.
A prime example. You do know that.
I know
example in the NFL currently is someone like Vance Joseph with the Broncos. A fantastic defensive mind, a great defensive coordinator. We've seen what he can do as a head coach, and it's not good. Right?
Big Fangio, you could say.
Big Fangio's another option as well. Yeah, 100%.
It depends on your thinking, but Brian Flores. See, my thing with head coaches is you have to be, especially at the college and NFL level, you have to be a leader of men. You have to be. You have to be an asshole, but you have to be enough of an asshole where people want to follow you. You got to follow that up with love, and you also got to be an asshole. You got to have your standards up here, hold standards, but like no one wants to play for a guy that's a prick all the time. Like it's not going to happen. Like if you're going to be a prick, if you're going to be an asshole, you got to have the love there too. And
Right.
so, and I think, Rich Bisaccia, that the Raiders head coach, that led him, like he maybe was not a good coach, but that dude was a leader of men. Like he coached hard. He had his high expectations, but got guys to play hard for him, and like showed respect and love there too. So, people think being a head coach is all X's and O's, and a lot of it is, maybe about half. But you also have to, how to inspire your guys. You gotta hold them accountable. You gotta know how to talk to certain players. That all fits in there. Like just being an X's and O guy, like Josh McDaniels, who wasn't even an X's and O's guys with the fucking Raiders. Like just because X's and O's doesn't mean you should be a head coach. And I think that's a lost. That gets lost in translation. Usually when hiring for a head coach, is like, hey, this guy knows what he's doing, but can he lead people? That's what you have to, like, not everyone needs to be in a leadership, and anyone in the job can understand that. There's one guy at your fucking job that you're just like, that guy should not be leading anybody like that. I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
We've all had bosses at some point in our lives who are like, how did you get to the position that you are?
Exactly. So, how it's just like whose ass did you have to kiss, and whose ass am I kissing next? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But
Alex, it is October 4th. We've officially entered October. We're like in the prime stretch of college football. We're looking forward really quickly to the 2025 NFL draft. If you were a quarterback needy team picking first overall, who would be your quarterback one as of October 4th?
Cam Ward.
Yeah. He's supplanted. Surpassed. He surpassed.
That was just not close at all. I don't know what we weren't even close.
It began with an S. I had that at least. Anyway, so Cam Ward for you has passed. All right, has passed Carson Beck as QB1. It sounds like.
Man, watching Carson Beck play Alabama that first half was not pretty. And it was a half. But that team is Georgia. Georgia always has talent around them. So, and I get it. Alabama's a tough team. Alabama. It really showed me a lot more about Alabama than it did Georgia. However, I will say this to Carson Beck's credit. He rebounds, was never felt like he was shook. Mm-hmm. It looked like, first half he's having a bad game, bad decisions. But like, you see guys when they make mistakes, they mentally aren't there, and then it usually leads to more. He was making bad decisions, but like when they would cut to him, he was like, okay, nope, I didn't do that right. But like, okay, what can I do differently? And that whole first half, it was kind of that. Second half, I guess after a few minutes of talking, adjustments came out, played, I wouldn't say lights out, but played really good enough to like get them back in the game. And then eventually make it a game at the end of, like, if you watch the whole game, that end of the fourth quarter, it got really like spicy. It was getting spicy. And, I think that goes a lot of credit to a quarterback's mental fortitude when they can do that, especially being down, three touchdowns to Alabama. I don't know.
Scores, yeah.
Yeah. To Alabama of all teams, and being able to, and even having a talented team around you and having a really good head coach, but you yourself having the mental fortitude to say, we could get back in this fucking game. And they had a chance to win it. And so that says a lot. If it wasn't for Ryan Williams, that guy's he's a stud. But, that says a lot to him. So that's good for me, though. Like, so far, Cam Ward has impressed me. But I think Cam Ward's potential is higher than Carson Beck's. But, man, like, you got Cam Ward just, I don't know. I get tingly inside, But, just for the Raiders to pick fucking Grayson McCall over him or some shit like that. That's crazy. That shit would happen.
I've been seeing a lot of since we're kind of entering October, a lot of people are doing these mocks, right? We've seen
I did a mock after week 1 of the NFL season after watching Gardner Minshew play, and I was just like, what the fuck is this? I did I drafted 12 quarterbacks after that.
I've seen a weird amount of mock drafts mocking Garrett Nussmeier really high. And I've seen Garrett Nussmeier in a couple of mocks to the Raiders. And I just know that your crash out, if they drafted... Now, this is of October 4th as well. Garrett Nussmeier... Well,
over who?
Guys like Ward and Beck are already
mad.
gone.
I'm already mad.
No. You didn't hear me. Ward and Beck are already gone. They're already drafted. So, like, guys available would be like a Jackson Dart, a Jalen Milroe, a Shador Sanders, and they're going with Garrett Nussmeier. As of October 4th, I like Garrett Nussmeier. I don't know that I could turn in the card for him in the first round, but I like him. I think he's definitely projecting up. I think you hit something really important when you're talking about Carson Beck, and that reason is why I still have him as QB1, subject to change as potentially as soon as tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like Beck never lost confidence in his game, in his teammates, in his coaching. And that's what I want out of my quarterback. I don't give a shit that you looked bad in the first half. It shows how much of a leader you are to rally your guys and be like, listen, this is on me. I'm fucking up, but I'm also going to get us out of here. Yeah. Beck in the second half displayed much better accuracy, made the right adjustments at the line of scrimmage, getting in and out of plays, hitting those short to intermediate throws. We saw a couple of nice deep balls as well in the second half. That's, for me, like, yes, Cam Ward flying up my boards as well. I'd probably have him right now as my QB2 in this class, I believe, which is also kind of an interesting thing as well, and we can maybe dive into this another time, is that it feels like in years past, going through the college football season, then into the pre-draft process, the college football season, the quarterback rankings are pretty set with minimal fluctuation at the end of the year. Whereas this year,
moving.
Year, quarterback, we may have three different QB1s by November 15th.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of this season. And that's why scouting is so important, right? And that's why Vendetta should be your home of scouting, because this place does the best scouting. I'm sorry. We're led by Trey, who's he's a psychopath.
Just read one draft notes. Just read one draft notes.
I mean, you
will go back.
He makes fucking 19-minute reads going in depth on all the players he watches. It's ridiculous. Getting back on track though. This year's parity at the top of the quarterback class is going to be so much fun to watch shake out through the end of the year. For me, though, I do have Carson Beck still as my QB1, but it is a much tighter race than even maybe 2 weeks ago.
I think for me it's Ward, Beck, and then Sanders. I think that's where I'm at.
Okay,
that's where I'm at.
If you dropped Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, speaking of Ryan Williams, you just talked about him a second ago. If you dropped them into this draft class, where are they ranked?
I'm getting Ryan Williams at 17 though.
You're getting Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith at 17. You're not projecting them to be like 18, 19, 20.
They're playing with grown men. Well, and you said where would I draft them?
Where would you have them in your rankings compared to guys like Air Mac, Luther Burden, all of these guys?
But it's hard not to put those guys top 4. Like, I will say I'll give respect to Burden and Air Mac. I think Air Mac might be 1, but I think actually Burden's going to be 4th, and then fuck. Good question.
I have my list.
I think it would be Ryan Williams 2, Jeremiah Smith 3. I think I'll go Air Mac 1 for right now.
I'm not joking when I say this.
I would hope not.
I literally I would consider taking Ryan Williams as the wide receiver 1 in this year's class. That's how fucking talented this kid is.
Oh yeah, he's fucking
nasty. Is crazy because Jeremiah Smith was ranked higher coming out of high school. Jeremiah Smith, I believe, was the top rated prospect in the entire class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not to discredit Jeremiah Smith, he's fucking balling out at Ohio State. I want to show you something in these stats really quick. Can we just turn our attention to this right here? It highlighted everything, but
yeah.
6 catches, 177 yards for a touchdown. As a true freshman, against one of the best teams in the country, and he's already doing this.
Yeah. No, he's gonna be
we're talking about like one of the best college football wide receivers of all time. That's what we're projecting at, and he's already playing like this.
You
Give him
wanna
2 more years of this, he's among the greatest to ever do this in college, at least.
you know what's crazy? My first year coaching, those players now are seniors in high school, and they're 17, 18. So like that would be me like coach like that's crazy to me when I think of those guys. And then I think of Ryan Williams. I'm like, Ryan Williams is doing this at Alabama, basically as a senior in high school. Like that's
Yes.
unheard of. That's unheard of.
It's again, all credit to Jeremiah Smith too. These two boys are going to run wild over the next couple of years, and I cannot wait for the 27 draft to see where they shake up, because we could be looking at 2 top 5 picks at wide receiver.
Yeah.
In a class that's going to have DJ Lagway, Dylan Raiola. It's going to have Dylan Stewart in it, the edge rusher from
South Carolina.
Yes, exactly. All of these guys are going to be in that class, and these two could go top 5, which is unheard of.
Could you imagine if Arch Manning, and Nico, the floor is lava, don't declare it the next year, but go in that 27 year.
Oh, could you? Yeah, they stay one more year. That
Oh my
27
God.
class would be like one of the best ever. It'd
Oh
be
my God.
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's disgusting. That is disgusting.
We're going to turn our attention to the game of the week. This is the game we're going to talk about this week. The only game for your guys' viewing pleasure this week is the game of the year. Alabama hosting Georgia. Alabama, I believe, is now the #1 ranked team in the country, rightfully so, after their 41-34 victory over the Georgia Bulldogs, who, if you look here, this was a 30-7 game at half.
Mm-hmm.
And then Georgia stormed back in the second half, putting up 27-11, and had a chance to win it late as well. We talked about Carson Beck. I want to touch on Jalen Milroe really quick, who is probably flying up a lot of boards as well. 27 for 33 for almost 400 yards and 2 touchdowns with a really high QBR is really impressive against the Georgia defense. But man, 117 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns, already throwing for 33 passes as well. Like, Jalen Milroe is basically the offense in Alabama. I know that he's got some concerns that might, not like character concerns, but like issues in his game, I guess, which seem to be being fixed with Kalen DeBoer. And there's a lot of people who would be interested in drafting Milroe potentially pretty high.
I've seen him at 1.
If you're an NFL GM, like, where would you feel comfortable in that range picking? Like, is he a first round guy for you? Does he fall into the day 2 range?
Do you like the question with Milroe is, do you like Lamar Jackson? If you like Lamar Jackson, you like Jalen Milroe. I don't mind Lamar Jackson, but I think Lamar Jackson has, he has his limits. Like, I think he is slowly improving as a passer. He did win the MVP. Like, you could tell me all that shit. You could tell me that. But I don't, like, at this point in time, and I'm more than wrong. I'm more than capable of being wrong about this. I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to go win you a Super Bowl. I don't think Jalen Milroe is going to be one of the guys that kind of goes win you a Super Bowl. Eventually, those I'm looking for. I don't want to say deficiencies, but we'll use deficiencies. I usually, at some point, those deficiencies are going to hold you back. Like, you get a Josh Allen. Josh Allen's going to go win you a Super Bowl eventually. If Josh Allen never wins a Super Bowl, like, I would be stunned. Eventually.
If he retires without a Super Bowl, he was in the conversation of the best quarterback to never win one.
Exactly. Like, so, when you're drafting a quarterback, you also got to think, hey, he's good, but am I going to be able to win? Like, usually when you're trying to draft a quarterback, you're obviously trying to win the big one, the Super Bowl. So I do think, and this second half by Alabama was a little bit concerning. Coming out firing, scoring 30 points. And yeah, they probably took their foot off the gas, said we won this game, and then they're like, oh shit, Georgia's here, and so they ended up winning at the end. But Milroe made some good passes, but a lot of it was short. A lot of it was also, his running ability. So if you like Lamar Jackson, you like Jalen Milroe. If you don't like Lamar Jackson, then you might not like Jalen Milroe. I would say for me to be comfortable, uh, late first round. And I would say late first round, and of course, he might be like my fifth quarterback on my board. And I think, you know, you take him in the first round just so you can get the fifth year option and see if he develops into, basically a better Lamar Jackson who can win you a Super Bowl. So I won't say he doesn't have talent, but I do have, limitation. I do have my concerns about his throwing ability. His running ability is amazing. And I will never take that away from him. But just like Lamar Jackson, like if you force Lamar Jackson to beat you by throwing, eventually it's not like usually that's where you kind of see where the Ravens don't win. Same thing with Jalen Milroe. If they figure out, which I don't know why people don't do just a fucking double spy, basically. Not just one spy, because usually your spy is a linebacker and Lamar Jackson or Jalen Milroe will outrun it. But if you put two spies on both sides, then there you go. Now you might be cooking with peanut oil. That was always my idea. Rush 3, 2 spies. Force them to beat you with six deep, but whatever. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Jalen Milroe. Just quarterback 5, late first round. I still think I'd take him in the first round, get the first or get the fifth year option. But I don't know. It's hard to tell what Jalen Milroe can become.
I think I don't want to even call it a turnaround because Jalen Milroe was pretty hyped as a prospect coming into the year before the hire of Kalen DeBoer. But I think this really puts a highlight on how talented a head coach Kalen DeBoer is.
Correct.
I don't, for me at least, I don't know there was huge concerns when he took over the head coaching job from Nick Saban in Alabama. But I was like, you know what? If Alabama wins 9 games this year, that's very respectable for a first year head coach. And we're 4 or 5 games into the year almost. We're into October 4th now.
Yeah, week 6 is tomorrow. Yeah.
And Alabama might be the favorite to win the national championship. And I think a lot of credit goes to Kalen DeBoer because he has really turned around the projection and the play of Jalen Milroe. For me, I think I probably would take him at the tail end of the first round as well because I feel like he's a guy you really want to have a fifth year option on, like you said. I really think the pre-draft process is going to be massive for a guy like Jalen Milroe. I think Trace talked about it before. He might fly up boards when he runs the 40.
Oh, yeah.
Because he is going to fly on the 40. And if he posts sub 4.4.
Oh, it's going to be 4.3. It's going to be 4.3, like 4. Remember that.
If he runs 4.34, Alex, he's probably the third quarterback drafted. He might get drafted above Shooter Sanders.
I just
if
don't
he runs
want
that fast.
I just don't want the Raiders drafting him. I would be scared to death.
And honestly, like I get both sides of it.
Yeah.
I do want to highlight 2 things really quick about the Georgia defense. I feel like there is a pretty noticeable presence missing from this pass rush unit with Mykel Williams being hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that we've gotten a lot of good play out of Jalen Walker. I think he's rapidly flying up draft boards. He's going to be one of the top edge rushers in this class. I am curious to see Walker playing at his heights and Mykel Williams coming back, because Mykel Williams coming into the year was popularly viewed as the edge one in the class. And it seems like his stock has taken a bit of a hit because he's missed multiple weeks. That is one thing I'm really excited to see. Obviously, Malachi Starks had a fantastic game in the secondary.
Always good.
So one thing to keep in mind with this Georgia defense too going forward, and this is something you may want to consider for if Georgia is on the college football pick'ems going forward, is that Smell Munden popped up on the injury report this week during practice, and he might miss some time as well. Smell Munden is one of Georgia's best linebackers, and arguably, for my money, at least one of the best linebackers in the country as well. He popped up on the injury report this week. I think it might have been today or yesterday, maybe even the day before, it might have been Wednesday. he popped with an injury, and he may miss. So it sounds like he might miss this week. It may miss some time altogether. One thing to consider.
I always draft him when I do
Late.
my
When you do your mocks, I always find a way to get Smale on my team.
Yeah, like I can never go wrong with a Georgia defense boy. Like that's
it, and that's kind of the crazy thing too, is that when in doubt, pick a defender from Georgia, and you're probably safe.
Yeah, like so. But yeah, this was like I thought it was a snooze fest. I'm glad I kept watching though, because you even put in the Slack. You're like, yeah, this one's over, and then I was like,
did.
well,
I had
was
full
like,
confidence in it. I was like, Alabama might blow out Georgia, and then I kept watching and watching and watching. I'm like,
yeah.
Ooh, I jumped the gun a little.
Yeah, I mean, I think Georgia. I think Georgia scored right after coming out of the half, and then that fourth quarter was electric. Like if you stayed till the fourth quarter, you got your money's worth for it. So
yes, you did. 100% you did. I'm just pulling up my player of the week. As always, we close out Leave My Saturdays Alone with our votes for player of the week. I'm gonna let
did
Alex
not
go
prepare
first.
one.
I will go first then.
You will go first because I will think. It's
My
easy to just go Ryan Williams.
yeah, I mean honestly, yes, I would get it. My player of the week is Trey Stewart, running back from Jacksonville State. Had a monster game this past week in a win over, I believe, Kennesaw State. 24 carries, 134 yards on the ground with 4 rushing touchdowns. Admittingly, this was a bit of a slower week in terms of not only the schedule, we had some teams on bye, but not a lot of huge pops, right? Not a lot of massive players, a lot of massive stat lines. It's always safe to vote for Ashton Genty as well because he's always fucking
I was just about to mention that because this dude, the line was 172 yards,
and
he fucking crushed it.
Yeah, it's
you know
absurd.
what the line is? Do you know what the line is this week?
It's like 196 or something. Yeah,
I thought it was 192, but yes, like
it's crazy high.
I would be like, yeah, I would bet the under, and then you're just kind of like, well, maybe not. Actually, maybe I won't take the under. I usually wouldn't bet anyone that high, but some maniacs are gonna bet $1,000 on the over.
I saw his anytime touchdown odds were like
minus -4,000.
Yeah, it was ridiculous last week. Like, there may not be a safer bet in the world right now than Ashton Genty, maybe even 2 touchdowns.
Well, who was? Oh, it was Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, anytime touchdown score, like how that
was a safe bet. I've been doing it for 2 years.
That was parlay.
That was 2 years.
You just do a two parlay, easy.
Yeah,
easy,
cash money. All right, Alex, who's your player of the week?
I was gonna say Ashton Genty.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Do Ashton Genty.
Yeah, I already explained.
Well, I mean, stat line. What was the stat line?
I don't have the stat line on my deck. I was just, what is it, Garrett?
Yeah, I will pull it up for you, Alex.
I will say Boise State was my G5, sorry, G5 pick to make the college football playoff. So
that is true.
Take that for data.
Now,
David
any
Fisdale.
reasonable mind would say that Ashton Genty is the offensive player of the week, right? Because I mean, he had 259 yards and 4 touchdowns.
But
it's easy to go Genty every single week, right? I don't want to go Ashton Genty. I want to highlight some other players. I'm just kidding.
Well, I didn't prepare. I didn't even forgot. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't know we were doing Leave My Saturday Alone until about 3 seconds before we started recording. And I saw Georgia and Alabama. I was like, oh, we're doing this. Okay. So I was like, and then you're like, I'm just gonna pick your brain about things. And I'm like, okay.
That's where I feel like the best content comes from, when I don't give you a heads up. Spoiler alert for Hard Locks, by the way, where I just don't tell you things and I just get your raw reaction.
No, what are you gonna do?
You're gonna have to stay tuned. If you like the video, please be sure to leave a thumbs up on it. Comment down below who your player of the week is, what you thought about the Georgia-Alabama game. If you haven't subscribed already to the Vendetta Sports Media YouTube channel, smash the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss any more uploads coming out of the channel. We're going to see you next time.